had a teammate named Matt Horwich, and Matt Horwich was so difficult. He was so difficult to beat. He was so difficult to deal with. He was so difficult to game plan for. And Matt Horwich was almost a secret weapon amongst Team Quest. One thing about Matt is all the guys in the room that were within Matt's weight class either could beat him or they knew how to beat him. Hear me out. They either could beat him or they would at least know how to beat him. But outside of the room, in any kind of competition, it could be Desert Brawl, it could be the Rumble at the Roseland, it could be the WEC, which it was, all the way to the IFL. Do you guys remember that International Fight League? Matt Horwich was a champion. He was the middleweight champion. He had the belt around his waist. I mean, there was good fighters over there. And he was the king of them all. Mike Pyle and Jay Haran and Dan Miller. I mean, these are just all guys within the weight class. And Horwich has the belt. And Horwich had one secret, which is the rope-a-dope. Horwich was very difficult to hurt, and he didn't mind if you tried. So you'd see guys, and they would come out, and they would see an opportunity, and they would start teeing off almost like highlight stuff, right? Almost like they got a punching bag in front of them. But Horwich could take it, and that guy would then be exhausted. And it was night after night after night, they would be exhausted, and now it was Matt's turn. Oh, by the way, he had a black belt in jiu-jitsu. When a guy has some ability, but you don't know what it is, you've either got to feel it or you've got to see it or somebody needs to let you in on it. But when you go for a kill and you're trained like that and the guy is giving you positions to go ahead and finish, it's very difficult. It's very seductive to want to go in and do that. It's what you've been told. You've been told by your coaches and your trainers who are yelling right behind you, go for it, you got him. Done by the referee that's looking in, the promoter himself. Everybody's telling you these things, but Horwich wouldn't go away and now you don't have any energy left. I tell you that because I know firsthand guys like this exist. And the only reason that us at the gym, when I told you the guys within his weight class at the gym could deal with it, they couldn't themselves. They saw him so often and practiced with him so often. Eventually they go, oh, here's the secret. Here's what I need to overcome, and here's the positions I need to maintain. Now, that story was meant to serve the great Matt Horwich, by the way. But I heard Chris Curtis on Errol Hawani's show today talking about Sean Strickland. And he was talking about how difficult of a style that Sean has. Talked about the fact of how upright he is. Talked about where he holds his hands. Talked about how hard it is to hit his face. His body's a little bit more open, but he's going to make you pay. He doesn't wear down. He just said, your first time going with Sean is always the worst. But if you come back the next day, there is adjustments that you can make. And if you come back the day after that, and if you stick around for another few months, there are adjustments that you can make to deal with the awkward style of Sean Strickland. Now, this is Chris Curtis speaking, who I believe is Sean's best friend. It's at least one of his top closest friends in our sport. And Curtis, of course, was saying good things about Sean. But there was another side that I drew from it, even if it was the unintentional side, that did make me reflect back to my time with Matt Horwich, which is Sean just as good as we saw? Is Sean as good as Izzy had to deal with? Or is Sean as awkward in getting able to have that one feeling and then try it again? Doesn't serve Sean, it serves his opponent. I'm asking that question. It was very hard for me to hear what Chris Curtis said and not come to that conclusion. You know, Sean, after that fight with Izzy, was trying to be a gentleman. You know, Sean cried in front of the world, and that's not something that he wanted to do. But that was a real guy having a real moment. It's an interesting spot. I worked out with Sean a lot myself. I didn't have the same experience that Curtis had. I did feel where he was awkward, and I did feel things about him that were a surprise. He was surprisingly good at getting his hips back. He was surprisingly difficult to touch in the face. If you went to the body, he didn't even care. I mean, he wouldn't even block it. The body would be the face. It was just hard. It was these little movements, little 2-inch, half-inch movements. So what is he going to do, right? Is it a case, and how often do you have to feel it? I mean, you got to feel it in the first round, then you got some advice for the second round, and he felt it again, then you got to try it for the third round, or does it not work that way? Do you have to go back to the drawing board? Is it something where you can watch the video and your coaches can show you to get to these adjustments that Chris Curtis talked about? Possibly. But the video and the coaches, they had 6 weeks to go and watch these things. Was that something that was overlooked? Everybody makes mistakes. I'll live with that answer. I'm just curious. I'm very curious. See, it would seem to me that there would be no reason to do a rematch. But history tells me they're going to do a rematch. So why? The first part becomes a moot point. So now you come to point number 3. Does Sean want a rematch? I can see where a rematch would be good for Izzy. Does Sean want to rematch? Well, Sean came out and said Izzy felt like he wasn't even trying. Said that guy was worse than my bad sparring partners. And this is Sean in a good mood, trying to make nice with people. And that's still how he worded it. Now, every champion has the same job. Every champion's job is the exact same, which is to make the most money against the easiest opponent. So if what Sean is telling us is true, and every time Sean talks, he is giving his version of truth, it would seem like, boom, that's right where we land. Exactly. But one mistake that the victor has, the victor goes into a rematch and never wants to change anything. When you win the fight, you don't sit down with your coaches and you don't find flaws. You're not critical. You don't change. You think everything went perfect, all the way down to the training camp. Well, I ate these things during training camp. Everybody told me I shouldn't, but now we know that I can because I won. I skipped these workouts or I added these workouts, whatever it might be. But everything I did, I now get a rubber stamp pass. And it was the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do to the point that I'll do it again. And it's the right thing and I'll do it again because I won. And it's very hard to come out and be critical. It's very hard for a coach to sit you down and say, look at this, you got away with it. And you get away again. And in this round here, you get away with it over and over. You're not going to get away with it next time. He should have exploited you then. He's at home with his coaches working on it. And this is the moment they're looking for. Stop doing this. It's very hard. Next to rare. Next to nearly impossible where those kinds of conversations take place. So what is going to be different if you have a great kickboxer in Adesanya who has proven if I can just kickbox with somebody longer than I can do other things with somebody, I'll win because I'm that good at it. What do you do when you have 25 minutes? And how quick does he want the rematch? I'm interested in those things. Adesanya's got every right to be in any frame of mind that he's in. From up, from down, from neutral to I don't even want the belt back all that bad. I've done this journey. I've proven myself. Good for Sean. I'm going to take a little bit of break. At which point we bring somebody else in. Or Izzy to do what I think Izzy will do, which is get me in there and get me in there as quickly as possible. Well, as quickly as possible goes against the narrative that there's changes that can be made. So you find that sweet spot, right? You buy just enough time and you go out and you redo the match. But during that whole phase, you're going to hear something from Duplessis, who thinks he's the number one contender. And then you're going to hear something from Chimaev and Paulo Costa, who, why that has obviously been a number one, or while it's been revealed to us as a number one contenders match for Chimaev, and as long as Chimaev wins, now it looks like either one, they both are great parity with a new head of the division. But is the head of the division going to stay at the top of the division, right? You see where there's all these moving parts, and there's no way for you to answer. They're almost like rhetorical questions. Like as I ask the questions of you, I know that you don't have an answer for them. But neither would anybody else. And it would just seem as everybody needs to take whatever fight they can get whenever they can get it. It would seem as though Duplessis is a very open target. It would seem as though Sean Strickland and going after him, not knowing if Izzy even is interested in doing the rematch or right away. It seems as though these things would make a level of sense. But you don't have any 85-pounders that are doing it. And you do have to wonder what Sean wants. You'd have to wonder, does Sean have some kind of heat? I mean, the whole reason that Izzy wants to fight Sean is because he got one over on him. Well, Sean's got a guy in the front row that did the same to him, right? That's where Jared Cannonier would fill in. Kamaru Usman's been talking about wanting to come into the division, but it appeared that he didn't want to step on Adesanya's toes. Now, Kamaru Usman's looking up, and the king of the division, of which Kamaru's told he's not big enough to go, is a guy that Kamaru beat. So does that piece of the puzzle finally start coming in together? Right? Kamaru, Izzy, you guys said you wouldn't fight if one was champion. Neither of you are champion now. Can I now put you in the same division? Like, I'm just sharing with you, like, things move really fast. And what a guy wants to do and how he's going to do it will be based on the information that he has at that time. And the information that we have right now is that Sean Strickland can beat Izzy Adesanya in a stand-up fight. That was something that's information we didn't have a week ago. So if we're going to rematch the fight, and you think Izzy's going to win, and he is currently a favorite DraftKings right now, then I'm asking you one of two questions. Can now all of a sudden he beat him at a stand-up fight? He couldn't do it Saturday, but now all of a sudden he can. Is that your answer? Fine. Or is he going to fight a different kind of fight? And if he's going to fight a different kind of fight, what kind of a fight do you suggest that is?